We've got a leaky valve cover gasket on this 2002 Honda Accord with a 2.3 liter 4-cylinder engine. We're going to change the valve cover gasket, spark plug tube seals, and the grommets for the bolts. I'll show you how to do it. I noticed it was oily and kind of dirty, and I've wiped it off here by the distributor. But I noticed a bigger problem back here, and it's puddling up in the intake manifold on top of that. I don't know if you can see that or not. And underneath the fuel rail. And a bigger area that I'm concerned about is right down in here. And I hope this valve cover gasket will take care of it. But if not, we may have a camshaft seal that's leaking. But I'm trying the valve cover gasket first. And you can see how it's all wet underneath. And even dripping off the transmission there a little bit. And also off the oil pan. And a little bit on the ground. Well, this is a pretty simple job. There are 5 bolts that hold this in place. We'll loosen those. Anytime you're working with a cylinder head or a valve cover gasket, when you loosen, you want to loosen from the outside in. So I'll start out here and end in the middle. And when you tighten, you want to start in the middle and work your way out. On this Honda, it takes 10 millimeter. So loosen the outside first. Boy, these are tight. Golly. They shouldn't be that tight. There we go. Oh my gosh. All right, thankfully we got them. You don't want to bust these off. Now on this car, the spark plug tubes are all dry, which is great. And we can set this aside. And I like to have a nice safe spot. Keep screws, nuts, bolts. We'll set those in there. And we'll disconnect. That just pulls out. And then this breather hose. It's got to move this hose clamp up and out of the way. Pry up on that hose a little bit. There we go. Alright. Now just kind of lift up. Lifting under the cap here. And it popped right up. Which is nice. And we can take it over the workbench. Change the gaskets and the seals. First thing we'll do is these grommets are kind of stuck on there. There we go. And these front bolts are short and the back ones are longer. Here we go. Back one. Other one. And the final one. And it's nice and clean in here. I like to see that. And there's our tube seals for the spark plugs. We need to get these out. And we need to get these grommets off. I've got the new kit here. And I decided to go with an aftermarket one. It's an older car and the dealer didn't have the kit. They had to order it. It was a little over $100. This was $33. at an auto parts store. It's got the tube seals, 4 of them, the 5 grommets, and then the gasket for the valve cover. I've taken these off, and they're brittle. They'll just crack. This one doesn't seem too awful bad. I mean, it's not rubbery and flexible. It is a little dry. And I'm just resting the screwdriver on this side and putting it underneath here to grab that and pry it out. There we go. You just want to take your time with these. There's a metal ring in here, and you just don't want to score all this and mess all this up. Take your time, they'll come out. There we go. These don't go all the way down and seat against that lip there. There's a gap in there. And so I can get underneath. Right underneath there. And I'm just gently prying and staying away from the metal. I don't want to score that metal, that aluminum. There we go. One more. And I'm feeling for movement because these are set in flush. So I'm just feeling for movement as I'm doing this. And it's coming up now. There we go. There we are. Now we've got to press these in until we're level with this here. I'm just going to take a little oil from in here, put it on the rim of this seal, and I've got a socket. You can push these in without the socket, but this helps. There, this one pushed right in. Level with that. Yeah, I can push these right in. Went a little too far on this one. Good. And a little oil on the inside so they slide right over the tubes. Good. We can set this aside and we'll work on our grommets. You've got to take the old one off. So I take a little screwdriver. This is metal on the top, just like the new one, and the rubber's inside. So I separate the rubber from the metal. And you can just take a knife, cut these off carefully. Don't want to cut yourself. Pop that off. Take the metal backing off. And then what I do is take a little 3-in-1 oil, or just any oil, just to give it a little lubrication in here. Put a little on the outside. And I take this, like this, and you can press it on. I just used a spark plug socket. That gets that over that. I kind of go off to an angle, so I'm not going straight on. I just kind of work it around. And there we go. And now we can put our new gasket in. I like to make sure everything's nice and clean. Beautiful. All right, snug fit. Let's take it over and install it. I want to take a rag and wipe around the mating surface. Make sure that's nice and clean. If it's not, you want to take a plastic putty knife or something that won't gouge this metal and clean it up. And I started wiping along the back here and got up to here. You can see where that was leaking back there. The timing belt was done on this about 4 years ago, and I don't know if they changed the valve cover gasket or not. But I'm going to clean all this up back in here before I put it all back together. Now where the valve cover gasket transitions from this flat area and goes up over the camshaft area here, right at that 90-degree angle on this side and on this side, I want to put some gasket maker. Just a spot there, a spot on the other side, and the same thing on the other side. It's just a little insurance. If these leak, this is where they leak. Typically. Till they dry out, and then they'll leak all along. And I just want to show you, we got all 4 spots. Now let's install the valve cover. Okay, like I said, for tightening, we're going to go from the inside out. So this is number 1 here. I'm just doing it hand tight right now. Number 2. Number 3. 4. And 5. And we'll just keep going around like that and taking the valve cover down. Typically, I don't use a torque wrench on something like this. I go by feel. But for this video, I'm going to set this to 86 inch-pounds or 7 foot-pounds. So I'm at 0. There's 80 there. Crank this into 80. There's 80 right there. And now I'm at 80 and 0. I'll go up to 6. And actually, you should go 50 and then 80. But I'm just going to go by feel. Keep going around. You don't want to over tighten these. You can bust these off. That's all it takes. Good. Put our hoses back on and our spark plug wires and the bracket screws. Now, you don't want to torque these down hard. This is just aluminum here. You can bust it real easy. And that's all inch-pounds, no foot-pounds. If you want to go foot-pounds, it's 7 inch-pounds. And you should look it up to make sure in your service manual. That's what this car takes. You might want to check that to make sure that's what your car takes. I've run it for a while and there's no leaks. Let's go out and take it for a test drive. Come back and check for leaks. Just back from the test drive, and she is dry as a bone. Good all across the front and in back. don't know if you can see, but it's nice and dry in there. And where it was puddling back on the intake manifold, that's all nice and dry. So we're good to go. And that's how easy it is to change the valve cover gasket on your car. If this video was a help to you, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. And I look forward to helping you with other projects online.